So, a new game has been popping up on Steam called Kingdoms and Castles. And I thought it looked good, so I wanted to try and play it. I joined a little bit late compared to some other people, but hey, I got in. And I quite enjoyed it. Then I saw there were some hidden achievements. Those hidden achievements were basically hit different milestones, where the last one is hitting 5k, which let me tell you is not easy. It's not fun. It sucked. But as you can see, I've hit 5k. This is the exact moment I hit 5k. The exact moment you hit 5k. I paused the game there, as you can see up here. I just hit it. And I want to do this so quickly because, well, in not all that much time, maybe a week or two, there's going to be a patch or a big expansion update that's going to make it so that you can have double the map size. Because if I try to build, let's say I want to build a bridge, you cannot build past this point or this point. So the limit of the map is here. It's here. If we go over here, then it's all the way out here, and then up here. So the map is not awfully big, as you can see, I have been using almost all of it. But after then a couple of weeks, you can have the map twice this size. Then this is not going to be a big an issue hitting 5k. Then I could do that easily. But hitting 5k this size, as you can see, is a daunting task. So I thought, why not tell you how it is that I did it? Because I saw on the Steam statistics, and I think what they're currently at is 0.2% of all people who play this game have this achievement that I just got at time of recording, which is 6 o'clock in the morning on December 5th, 2017. I started this at 1 at night. So it took me 5 hours to get here, and that's because around 3000 it slows down, but I'm getting ahead of myself. First, how did I do it? Well, I picked a very specific seed. The seed number will be in the description, but I picked a very specific seed. I was talking to some people over the official Discord for this game. I was talking with some people, and a guy in there has some amazing seeds he just finds. Because what you want, there's these things called farms. Well, these are not specifically farms, but food production. These orchards and farms, they need to be placed on land. Whereas other things, such as these houses, don't. The houses, you can build these things called piers, which allows you to put buildings on water. But because farming requires soil, you need a big land mass, and this map was the one I found that has the most land mass in it. There's a little bit of water here, there's a little bit here, a little bit here, and then a little bit around the edges, but overall it's just a big ass chunk of, land mass. So that's a very, very good starting point, because every single citizen consumes food. So as you can see, my eaten by homes is at 4,915. Eaten by taverns is and lost to exposure. That's, they fail to store it, but that's not the important part. The important part here is that because they need so much food, you need a lot of farms, and this currently I am losing food per year. I'm losing a lot of food because it is so hard to sustain these many people. Could I do it if I filled out the map? As you can see, I was building here when I got it. I was expanding around this way. So could I move as many houses as possible out onto the ocean and then build as many farms in there? Maybe I could get that to work. But currently, at this current build, it would take so long because the frame rate eats ass at this point. And I also did some mistakes during the building of this. I have all of my resources are basically here, So if I build something like I'm doing now on the other side, they have to run across the entire town, get it, and then run back. And they have to do this multiple times because a citizen can only carry so much. But so yeah, so I wouldn't, if you want to try this, use a good seed for it. That's why I'll leave the seed in the description. And also, I would recommend using this certain tactic of making what I like to call districts, basically. So I found this in a community guide. I'll put a link to that also in the description, where he told about how to arrange your mansions, because these are the biggest buildings. They can bed up to 25 peasants. Uh, they demand charcoal to yield more tax revenue and has 4 heads of household. Basically, all you need to know is the 25 residents. That's basically the only important part of this. So each one of these is equal to 25 peasants. So if this entire thing gives me 200. In the middle of them there is a library that provides happiness. There's a well that does that my buildings won't, if they burn, there's a high chance of them being put out. And then there's a tavern which increases happiness, because you need happiness. You need a lot of happiness. And you will get a huge minus if they don't have access to a church. So if we like click on one, they're gonna have these things that they say, hey, we enjoy that we have this. So if you don't have a certain amount of things, then you don't have as much happiness. People won't come here if you don't have much happiness. People will leave if you don't have much happiness. So you need a lot of happiness. So that's why I saw this and I tried testing it. It is insanely efficient. So one of these is 200. That means, so just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 1,000 people living in these. Or like take this like that. That's 1,000 people. But then you still see, like if you look around, there's not enough squares. So you really just start filling out the map. There's so many people you have to fit inside here, and you don't have jobs for them all. Half of my population is idle. I did do this on easy, not the hardest difficulty, because I think doing it on the hardest difficulty is just gonna be an absolute pain. This took me 5 hours, and the rating were at a minimum, because playing this game on easy is not the worst. Playing this game on hard is not the worst. But because you have to micro so many things around, you really have a lot to do. A lot to do. Which is why this took 5 hours. I had to move stuff around because suddenly I wasn't getting enough timber, so I have to move a lot of the buildings that I had here around. I had to move a lot of the stuff that I have up here, that I had up here. Stuff had to be moved a lot, along with you having to deal with constant raiding. So it wasn't exactly like nothing happened. Stuff still happened, but I didn't get raided as much, which did definitely help. I didn't have to spend as much room on defenses. You can see I have a little bit here, a little bit here. I built some towers out here so that the main part of my residence, because these are expensive buildings, man. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you have to build this many of them, it's absolutely insane. I had to build, what is it, 200? I think it's 200. 200 of this one building. That's a lot of resources. And you have to build the path, and you have to build these things, and you have to build all the things, and they require food, so you have to build this shit. So they were the expensive part. That's why I protected them the most. I was starting to get some over here because I think half an hour ago, before I got the achievement, I had a raid up here and it burned down a lot of my farm. So I was having a lot of unhappiness because if you don't have enough food, people will die of starvation. So people get unhappy. So if you don't have that, people get unhappy. So the game can balance out at a certain point. It will just kind of be like, okay, we don't go above this, because when we go above this, people get unhappy and people leave. Then we go below, people get happy, new people come, then it just kind of stays there. My point was at 3.2, and the way I then just boosted it, because then basically I just built the buildings. Then when I was at 4.8, I had a festival. If you have a festival, you will get new people, but at the end of the festival, you will get almost cap of your current amount of beds, because I have beds and I have citizens. So if you throw a festival, you will get something different. You will get almost up to the cap of your citizens. So if you throw a festival, like I just did, then you will then people will show up, and afterwards you will almost fill up. But if you are almost near the cap, it will just put you at the cap. That's why I'm exactly at 5,000. Exactly. Because I just stopped here. I don't want to play this save anymore. This save sucks. It's such a drag to play at this point, because things are just moving slowly, things are just boring. So I just boosted it until the end. It's still not easy doing it like that, just boosting it at the end. You still have to get here. These are at the edge. If I get raided by Vikings, they show up outside of these buildings, so these buildings are just gonna get burned. But I don't have the room, because you have used the rune to all this fucking food. It's tedious as hell. So it's a slow process, but you can get there if you do this. So if you do this, which is in my opinion what works the best if you want high happiness, you could remove all this and just put another mansion in there, but then people won't be as happy. But you also have to find room for, other stuff like a hospital, the city's town square, which is definitely why I was even able to get here. Everything you do, you need coal to keep people warm at night, but you also need the coal to run things like a blacksmith, which gives you armaments which you can use to create soldiers, which you have to have in order to defend yourself. Let's see, yeah, I left some of mine here. So yeah, you need armaments so you can have soldiers, so you can defend yourself, because these motherfuckers, they can burn down a lot. If you don't repel them, if they get to run over your things, you will lose a lot. I had a raid where they just destroyed this entire section. That was before I had built these two districts, so I had built all this food, but they just powered through it. This thing wasn't built at that time, but so they just, if you don't have the correct defenses, they will just destroy you, and that could cripple a run. I mean, yes, you can technically just after they burn it all down, build it back up again, but it's gonna take so much time. Some improvements that I would make, or recommend you make, is don't cut corners in the beginning, because you can't just go straight to the mansion. Well, you actually can't. You have to build these small houses, then you have to build a little bit larger houses, then you have to build these. I had some of the others here, and when I built the mansion, I just destroyed the others, but I destroyed them too quickly, so I came below, so people became very unhappy because suddenly they didn't have anywhere to live. And also, you don't expand that way. You don't get new citizens. Wait until you don't get new citizens because you delete the house. But wait until you get to the point where you have a lot of idle, because as you can see, I have way too many idle people. So when you approach like 300 people, you start to have a lot of idlers. When you're at that point, fine, then you can just start doing shit. That's when it really starts getting fun. But before that, you have to be careful, because if you cut corners, you get fucked. You get fucked, and you don't want that. You don't want to get fucked. Not in this game. It can punish you. So be careful. Be very, very mindful. Don't try to cut too many corners, but be ready. From the start, I started counting when I did my rows, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, because I knew I needed 3 of these on a row, and one of them takes 2 by 2. So I need 2, 2, 2, and the one for the road that had to go this way. So I always, at all points, started building these squares so I could keep that in check. I did a faulty counting down here. I thought there was gonna be more. Well, I thought there was gonna be 1 more, because you can move the mouse further out, but you can't build anything out there. So I counted that one with when I started setting everything up. because if I had that one, then I could have built the squares out here as well. But because I right now only have a single row, I just wanted a path there instead. I could have dealt with not having the final path at the end. I could have lived with that, but here I felt like I needed this. Um, some other improvements: put your storage units in the middle, because this just becomes a big square, and as you can see now, the frame rate tanks. Put your resource, all the hoarding places for the resource, put that in the middle. Then you put your farms around it, and then you put all this outside of it. So you have, because you don't want your people to move, because I started here. This is my home base, so of course I built most of my stockpiles here. But then when I started expanding this way, I didn't move the stockpiles with me. They stayed here, because why wouldn't they? Well, actually they were here before. I moved them over there. But then suddenly you have to run back and forth. I tried to set something up over here, like a little one, but as you can see, it just fills up with iron because I have way too much of that, because you need a lot of coal to use the iron, and you need a lot of coal from your timber, and well, I don't have a lot of forest left. I had to chop most of it down to make room for all these bloody farms. So, long story short, don't play this build. Don't go for the achievement and make it your main town. I'm not gonna play this town ever again, most likely. I'm just gonna save it, and then I'm gonna have it, because and it's most likely gonna die in the new expansion anyway. The save file's probably gonna die because, well, it is early access still. But I did enjoy the challenge. I mean, it was fun seeing how could you fit everything in, and I sat counting. I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, and just counted the squares. I did the math, and I was just, I need this many squares to have that. Is there room for the squares? And I was just like, well, these aren't full squares, these are half squares, so do I have? So there was a lot of number crunching in the end. I think I did the numbers. It's like 1,550 squares you need total. Not of these, of individual, these small squares. Everything is done in squares. For fuck's sake. Like, everything is done in a square. And one of these takes up 62, one of these districts. And because you need 45 districts, that equates to 1,550 singular squares. And that's just the housing. That's just the housing with these in it. Then you need all your food, then you need all your timber, then you need all your armaments, you need all your defenses, you need all this extra pathing. You need so much more than just that. And that's why in the end, I'm just building around here because I don't know where else to go. Because I'm running out of land. Because the idea was kind of, if I could, remove as much of this out, but in the end, because it just started slowing down a lot nearing the end, I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna build, and when I'm done, I'm just gonna stop, because I don't want to play this build. This sucked. This has been 5 long hours, and I mean, 5-hour gaming session with this game is actually not even that bad, but when you're forced to just optimize, it just gets bull. It just gets dull and boring. I was trying to say dull and boring, and that became bull. Well, so it's a pain to get through, but I'm glad I did it. I'm especially glad I did it before the new patch rolls out, because when that patch comes, I mean, yeah, you can choose between what map size you want, so you can technically still select the small one, but it doesn't say on the achievement anything about that. So now I have the date on the achievement, what date I got the achievement. That says then when it was that I did this. And I mean, most of you guys don't even freaking care, but I think it's kind of cool, and I think it's something that also, I talked with some of the people on the Discord, and they were also like, yeah, we should get this beforehand, because I mean, it's cooler that you got it then compared to that you get it now compared to later, when it's gonna be so much easier. I mean, twice the map, and I'm not sure if it's twice the map size, like it's just twice the amount of squares, or if it's twice the side length, because then it actually gets 4 times the size. Because if you put like 4 squares, if you take this square and make this length double, but also make this length double, you get a square here, here, and here. So 4. So I'm not sure if they're gonna do it like that. I hope at some point they do, but I think the next patch just twice the size would be nice. So yeah, so that's how I did. If you have any improvements that I might be able to use, leave those in the comment. If you want to tell me how horribly I did this, go ahead and tell me, because I know I did a horrible job. I did not have enough timber. I chopped down way too many forests, and when you've chopped down the forest, you can't rebuild it. Well, you can, but if I wanted a forest, let's say over here, I would have to manually place these foresters in between, so that they would plant the trees going over there, so that at some point I would be able to build a forest over here, so he could start making a forest. So it would just take forever. So I'm probably not gonna use this build again, but hey, it's a fun challenge, and if you want to do it on a small size map, now is definitely the time. If you want to use my seed, I'll leave it in the description. I'll even leave a list of seeds that me and some other people we found, so that you can try those out if you want a challenge, or you can just try to find your own and really just do a difficult challenge. I don't recommend it though. Use one of the easier seeds. It's gonna help.